You're getting paid how much? So I'm going to tell you, I was talking to a colleague of mine, and this is my response. I'm going to talk more about justice, truth, and fairness from the 14-year-old Fuyanzi. So I'll tell you more about that conversation and how we are going to get a lesson from that we could learn today. But in the meantime, Queen, welcome to the Find Your Voice show with Coach Vuyanzi, where we are helping Black women leaders to find their voices from the inside out. I am Coach Vuyanzi, and be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So I know you're like, wait, what? Your colleague, huh? 14? So stay with me here. When I was 14 years old, you guys know how long that was ago. When I was 14 years old, I got my first job at a pharmacy and, being a cashier. And so this is going to date me, but I don't care because I got to tell you the full story. I was making $3.35 per hour. That was minimum wage in the country, in the United States, and that's how much I was making. I was pretty proud of that. I loved making my own money. So a month or two later, I don't remember exactly how long, another person was hired. His name, well, we'll call him Mike, because I can't really remember his real name. But he was cool. He was fine. We used to work together. And so one time at work, we were talking about how much we were making. And Mike told me that he was making $6 per hour for doing the same job that I was doing. And I said to him, you get paid how much? Black women leaders, I want to say this to you. In an age where justice and fairness, I feel like is I'm not going to say at its height, because we've definitely seen things in American history where it's worse, but there are times that we are going to have to speak up, not for the rest of the world, because we're being made to do that many times, but for ourselves. So Queen, even at the age of 14 years old, I knew that him making $6 an hour and me making $3.35 per hour wasn't right. And I'll tell you I'll speed to the final part of that story. Spoiler alert. I went to Howie. That was my boss's name. I went to Howie, and let me explain. Howie was a man who was about, if I was 14, Howie may have been in his 50s. So this wasn't like a peer that I was going to. And I went to him and I said, Mike is making $6 an hour. Sometimes people can acknowledge what is right and what is wrong. Howie said nothing because he knew he was wrong as I don't know what. He said nothing, and he gave me an instant raise. So, Queen, a lot of times when you are working in fairness and in things that are unjust, I want to encourage you that sometimes you must speak up. Now, if you're like me, maybe you're saying, oh, but I don't like confrontation. So today, I want to, maybe after hearing this today, it won't be about confrontation. Maybe you can reframe consultation, and you can think of it as just simply speaking up for yourself. So first is, number one, acknowledge. You can't ignore the problem. I had to acknowledge when Mike told me how much he was making, if I really didn't like, no, I just couldn't. Fairness is my thing. Justice is my thing. So hearing what he made, I knew like, yo, that's not right. So acknowledge what the problem actually is. The second thing is plan your strategy. Listen, I'm talking about me being a cashier at a pharmacy when I was 14 years old. And I know for many of you, the situation of injustice and unfairness comes in a much bigger package and possibly has a much bigger price. So therefore, number two, I say plan your strategy. Avoid acting from a low EQ. Folks, we know that EQ is emotional intelligence, or some of you call it EI. Like, in other words, let me give Howie a piece of my mind. Let me tell, why is he coming up in here? What? No. No. Come from a point of your self-awareness. You know how it makes you feel. It doesn't make you feel good. So approach it that way and plan out as much as you can your strategy. Now, when you plan your strategy, I would encourage you, if you can, and I know that the next thing isn't always the case, but the next thing I'm going to tell you is find support. Find an ally. Find someone who likes you. Find someone who's on your side. Find someone who will rub your back. Find someone who will help wipe your tears. Find someone who may even speak on your behalf. I had a client and we were talking about a situation that kind of felt a bit unjust to her. And so what she said was, and when I asked her about this part, she said, actually, I know that there is someone who can help me. So I encourage you to think about someone who could support you. And the next thing I want you to think about is think about the consequences of your inaction. If you don't do a thing, what's going to happen? So I want you to imagine if I didn't approach Howie about how much Mike was making, I would have had to work in almost double as hard as him just to catch up to him. That would have been the consequences of my inaction. What are the consequences if you don't act on this thing? And finally, based upon all of that, make a decision. Make a decision about what you're willing to do. You know, there's this song by Kenny Rogers, you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them. Okay, after you've looked and you assess the whole situation, make a decision. Know when to hold them, know when to fold them. But that's in reference to your planning. So today I really encourage you that if you're in a situation that is unjust, if you're in a situation that is not fair, that you speak up for yourself and do all of these things. Oh, do you need them again? Okay, no problem. Acknowledge what the problem is rather than ignore it. Plan your strategy from a high EQ. Also find support if you can find support, and based upon what it is that you know, then make a decision from there in terms of now and proceed with action. Hopefully the decision is supposed to lead to action if that's what is needed in this case. So I must say to you that quite often I run into Black women leaders who are in situations where things aren't fair and they aren't just, and it's not their imagination. And also, Queen, I just want to say that too. Many times we keep these things to ourselves because you're saying, maybe it's like my imagination, but I want to tell you that no, it probably is not your imagination. So we're supporting Black women leaders like you in the Career Passion Accelerator program. So if you want to find out more, make sure you comment below and we will reach out to you. But in the meantime, I will see you. Let me know actually how all of this goes. Try it for yourself. Let me know how it goes. And in the meantime, I will see you next time, Queen. Mwah.